A reserve list will be utilized for the Rolex 24 for the first time since 2014. More past and current F1 drivers confirm rides for Daytona, and the off-season rolls on with more teams announcing driver lineups and 2023 plans. A reserve list will be utilized, though, at the 24 Hours of Daytona for the first time since 2014. Now, the entries will be ranked based on whether they are full season or Michelin Endurance Cup only events, whether they're just a one-off entry that wants to compete in the Rolex, while also taking into consideration how many previous years they've run in IMSA, what their IMSA activities have been in other series, as well as if there's consideration to future year entries. John Doonan has said that teams will be informed of their status and the full entry list will be released before Christmas. Now, this comes amidst reports that there were north of 70 entries submitted for the Rolex 24, not even counting very serious consideration from other potential entries that didn't end up filing them. It has also been reported that the expected max number of entries for the race will be 61, although that has yet to be confirmed. If you were to have said that in 2020, where there was just 38 entries on the grid, that in 2023 there would be 61 plus a 10-car reserve list, I think that would be a pretty impressive number. It is certainly going to be disappointing, though, to see some of our favorite teams and favorite entries, favorite drivers potentially get turned away from this year's edition, but it really does put IMSA in a healthy spot going forward, especially considering the increased interest not only in the GT categories, but in that GTP category going forward. It also looks like LMP2 is set to be completely axed from the World Endurance Championship starting in 2024. Now, this has yet to be confirmed by the World Endurance Championship, but it does appear that the category is set to only be run at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. If this were indeed true, then it could lead to another influx of some LMP2 teams that come over to IMSA in the future. We've already seen it this season with TDS and Racing Team Turkey making the trek over to compete, with other potential rumored entries also coming across the pond. Now, speaking of TDS, it's been confirmed that Giedo Vandergaard will join TDS Racing and their LMP2 program in that number 35 car with Francois Hérault for their full season entry. It was also announced that Josh Pearson will be put in that car for the 4 Michelin Endurance Cup races. A fourth driver for Daytona has yet to be confirmed. Rick Ware Racing is also looking to expand into the LMP2 grid in a full season entry, according to DailySportsCar.com's Graham Goodwin. They have apparently acquired the Orica that was used by High Class Racing in 2022 and expect a driver lineup to be announced shortly. Also, a note on another prototype team looking to potentially add an entry to the grid. Marshall Pruitt reported on This Week in Sports Cars that Andretti Autosport is looking to add an Aston Martin GTD entry to the grid. Now, I know this isn't a prototype, but prototype ties in here, as they may run an LMP3 entry for the endurance races and a GTD entry for the Sprint Cup. Speaking of those GTD entries, there were the 3 new GT3 cars present at the recent IMSA sanctioned test at Daytona. Of course, they were also joined by the GTP class cars. Now, coming out of that test, the new Type 992 Porsche 911 GT3R received heavy praise from Pfaff Motorsports, who was campaigning it in this test. Pfaff Motorsports team manager Steve Bortolotti praised the step forward in serviceability, calling it a much easier car for the mechanics to diagnose and work on problems. Fun tidbit here is that he also mentioned that Pfaff is still in discussions with Porsche about a potential Porsche 963 LMDH car entry. But that definitely won't be happening for at least another year or two. Now, Porsche also reported to Graham Goodwin that they have sold out of that new Type 992 GT3R, with 60 of the 61 available cars set to be raced by teams and drivers on the racetrack. Where that other car is going to end up, I have no idea. Will it end up in just I mean, I would think even if somebody's going to buy it, they're going to take it to the track at some point. Maybe it's just going to be a track day car, or maybe it's going to be some sort of museum piece. It's kind of strange, but regardless, they've sold out of their 61 cars that are slated to be delivered this year. Now, for IMSA teams that are going to be running this new Type 992 Porsche, they are invited to a 2-day test at Daytona taking place on December 17th and 18th. 5 cars are expected to be present for the test, with 7 expected to be on the grid for the Rolex 24, including 6 in GTD and the Pfaff Motorsports entry in GTD Pro. Now, I'll be honest here, I was skeptical that Porsche was going to be able to get that many entries on the grid for Daytona when they announced that I think it was 5 or 6 that they wanted to have on the grid over the summer, and I thought, that's going to be pretty difficult to be able to manage, but heck, they've done it, and they've exceeded that estimate as well. Good on them. Another manufacturer that's done a good job of selling their recently released car is Lamborghini with the Huracan GT3 Evo 2. They have announced that they have sold out of the complete car, but there are some upgrade kits that remain. In some driver lineup news, Pfaff Motorsports announced their driver lineup for 2023, with Klaus Bachler and Patrick Piet joining the car for the full season championship. Now, Bachler was the only one that was present for the recent test at Daytona that we talked about, and he's also heading into his first full season of IMSA competition, while Piet, of course, he has done plenty of winning in the series already. Lawrence Van Thor will return to the team for the Michelin Endurance Cup races. And a 4th driver is to be determined for the Rolex 24. Inception Racing confirmed their full season GTD entry. Brandon Erb, Frederick Schandorf will tackle full season duties along with Ollie Milroy, who will join for the Michelin Endurance Cup events. And McLaren factory driver Marvin Kirchhofer will be joining for the Rolex. MDK Motorsports will compete in a Michelin Endurance Cup entry next year in their Porsche 911 GT3R, of course, the Type 992. The reigning AM Class champion in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, Mark Kwame, will pilot the car with Jan and Kevin Magnussen. The 4th driver in the car is believed to be Trenton Estep. Now, Jan has been confirmed to race in all 4 of the races, and while it wasn't explicitly mentioned, I think it's safe to say that Kevin is only going to be racing the Rolex 24, while Kwame will be likely to also compete in all 4 races. Speaking of Formula 1 drivers, Romain Grosjean has been confirmed for the Iron Lynx Lamborghini GTD Pro seat in 2023. The former F1 and current IndyCar driver will compete in the GT ranks in 2023, while also working to develop that Lamborghini LMDH car ahead of the 2024 season. Andrea Caldarelli and Mirko Bortolotti are 2 of the confirmed drivers that will be joining him at the Rolex, with the 4th to be confirmed. And while he will be racing in the GT ranks in 2023, it is looking likely that Grosjean will compete in the LMDH category starting in 2024. His full schedule has yet to be confirmed outside of this first race at the Rolex. Turner Motorsports will also be expanding their efforts in 2023. The team will add a 2nd car to the GTD ranks in 2023, with Bill Oberlin and Chandler Hull running 1 car, while Robbie Foley and a to-be-confirmed driver will be running the new 2nd entry. Now, the change that really prompted this move was Robbie Foley being promoted from a silver to a gold status license, which prevented him from racing with Oberlin in the Pro-Am category. Turner also announced that they will continue to run 2 cars in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. As well, they will be running 2 previous spec BMW GT4s in the new VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. Wright Motorsports and Volt officially announced their partnership for the 2023 season. 2022 Michelin Pilot Challenge winners Alan Bjornsson and Trent Hidman will compete in the full season championship in their number 77 Porsche 911 Type 992 GT3R. They will continue to run that very eye-catching neon yellow and black Volt livery. And Max Root is expected to be with the team for all of the Endurance Cup races, with WEC Porsche LMDH driver Kevin Estre joining the team for the Rolex 24. Ben Barnicoat and Jack Hawksworth were confirmed to be returning to Vassar Sullivan in the GTD Pro ranks. Their drivers for the Michelin Endurance Cup races and the Rolex 24 have yet to be determined. And there's also an announcement expected for their GTD class car. Racers Edge Motorsports will be teaming up with Wayne Taylor Racing after a successful outing at Sebring last year for a Michelin Endurance Cup entry in 2023. They will run the Acura NSX GT3 Evo 22, which will be run by Ashton Harrison, Kyle Marcelli, and Danny Formal, with Ryan Briscoe joining the team for the Rolex 24. It's a pretty darn strong lineup, if you ask me. Meanwhile, you'll recall that Team TGM announced that they are switching to Aston Martin for the 2023 season. They confirmed this previously for their GTD effort, but have now also confirmed it for their Michelin Pilot Challenge entries. Ted Giovannis and Owen Trinkler will continue to run one car, while brothers Hugh and Matt Plum will run the second car. We spoke about some of the GTD news that came out of the recent test at Daytona, but there was a ton of GTP class news that came out of that as well. You can get caught up on all of that right here. I just want to quickly shout out all the support that we've received from our early patrons. If you too want to support the show, then you can head over to patreon.com/offintheesses. Once again, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great race weekend and doesn't go off in the S's.